You gonna go through it? There we go. All right, so the 5 topics we'll be talking about today for Google Classroom are how to create a class. We will talk about how to create a class, how to enroll students and co-teachers in a class, and how to add parents. We'll talk about the different ways to create classwork and the different types of classwork, grading, and then some usability features to really help you take your Google Classroom use to the next level. So why use Google Classroom? Why use that instead of paper and pencil once we go back to, in-person school? Google Classroom is great because you can make assignments that are available for students in class and out of class. They can turn in their assignments, and then instead of taking home stacks of paper to grade, you can just open up Google Classroom on your laptop at home. So making assignments is great for assigning them to students. It can also make it easier for teachers to grade, not having to lose shuffles and loads of papers. You can make announcements for your students. So if you've got kiddos who have, let's say, spotty attendance, Google Classroom can be great to make those announcements. It can also help you make announcements to make sure you stay on topic if you teach multiple class periods. As a secondary teacher, by the time I got to 7th period, I never remembered if I had told the previous classes this announcement or not. So making it digital and then available for every class period, it's easy to remember to assign the same thing and talk about the same thing every class period. It's a great way to store classroom materials. So instead of having a folder on your wall of your makeup work, which is what a lot of teachers have used, you can store assignments digitally in Google Classroom, and then you don't have to worry about making enough copies for everybody, or having assignments available for students who are absent that day and they can take it the next day. It's all stored in the classroom. There's no copies to make. There's no lost documents. There's no, students putting it in their notebook and then putting it in their black hole of a backpack and losing it forever. It's all there digitally. Parents can see it, administrators can see it, students can see it. Classroom also allows students to interact. If you have some shy students who maybe aren't great at talking in class, they can interact digitally and comment on each other, adding a question or a comment to the class. They can answer each other's questions. They can interact with you and add private comments. So it's a great way to interact with those students who may be a little more shy in person. They can also, ask questions at night while they're doing their homework. So it's a great way to interact with students. So the first thing we're going to do is create a class. So I'm going to have you guys do this along with me if you would like. If you can split screen, you're welcome to do that. If you are on a Mac, you hit the little green button that shows up at the top there and split screen it. Otherwise, you can just follow along and then I will give you some time to do it also. So first, you're going to go to classroom.google.com, and then you're going to click that little plus button in the top to create a class. So what that looks like, classroom.google.com, plus button is right here. If you've never used Google Classroom before, you may only see join a class. That means you're in as a student instead of a teacher. If you see create a class, that means you're in as a teacher, and that's a good sign. So if you're in the plus button and only see join a class, let us know and we can get that fixed for you. So you're going to click create a class. You're going to give it a class name that is required. Spell it rightly. There we go. You can create a section. So if you know your section codes from PowerSchool, you can put that. If you just want to put period 1, period 2, period 3, those work too. You can put a subject if you want. You can put a room if you want. These 3 sections are optional. They're not required. But if that helps you keep track, go ahead and do that. That's always good. Let's just do English 9, and I'll be in room 1, just so you can see what it looks like. So once you've got your information here, you're going to click create. And then it takes a moment for it to create. We'll talk about some best practices in a minute, but it might be helpful to create one class first and get all, especially if you teach secondary or if you teach multiple periods of the same content, you might want to create one class first and then use that as your template to create other classes. I will show you how to copy a class. So now I've got my class created. It automatically creates this class code for me. It automatically chooses a random background for me. This can be changed. The class code can actually be changed also. I can also go to the three little lines in the top corner here and click on classes and take me back to my home page. If you've never ever used Classroom before, this page is going to be very blank. If you've used Classroom before, you might be seeing last year's classes. So one thing you might want to do is to archive or get rid of last year's classes.
Hey, Kristen?
Yes.
When I created my class, a window pops up, it says add meet to your class. Do you recommend that?
You might as well. I can see now that we're a one-to-one district, I can see needing Google Meet for students who are absent. You may still have to use Meet every once in a while to have kids who are absent call in. If you've got somebody who's on a 504 for health reasons, they may do school from home. The school I worked at before this was a small charter school, and we had many kids with health issues who worked from home. And so the nice thing about Google Classroom is they have access to all the materials. If you put them here, they can interact from home and their health issues don't have to impact their education.
Okay.
So I would go ahead and turn on Meet if it's asking you to.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Better to have it and not need it, right? So if you're looking at this homepage and you've got a lot of classes, as I go down, I've got a lot of classes because I've been doing this a lot. You can archive at any point on any class tile. You see the three little dots in the top right corner of the class tile. You're going to click on those three dots, and then you can archive it. What archiving does is it removes it from your homepage. It does not delete the class. It does not delete any of the assignments or attachments. It hides it from you and it hides it from your students. Students cannot archive a class, only teachers can, but it's important to archive them so that students' homepage for Classroom is also clean and they don't get confused with last year's classes versus this year's classes. It also prevents them from going in and finding old assignments to reuse them or send to their friends. I taught secondary. Kids are very creative in how they cheat. They will use old resources that you may not want them to. So it's important to archive to clean it up for everybody involved. You just click the archive button and then click archive. And then it removes it from your Classroom homepage here. So that's archiving, that's creating a class. You can also click the three little dots and copy the class. So what I like to do, since I taught multiple periods of the same content when I taught high school English, is that I would create one classroom with everything that I needed in it, and then I would click copy. So don't copy it yet. Wait until you're ready, and it will copy over all of your assignments you've posted. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but wait to copy it until you're ready. You can go into your class that you just created. You can select a theme. Google has a whole lot of like fun choices that are easy to read past. You can pick any of the backgrounds that you like. You can change it. These are nice so that visually I can go back to my homepage here and they're colored. So for me, it helps to visually see which class to go to. For your students who are secondary or even elementary with a separate Google Classroom for PE and music and homeroom, it's helpful for them to see the colors and be able to tell them apart. You can also see when you're enrolled as a student, I'm a student in this class, the teacher's picture shows up here. So that's another way to help your students visually see that this is your class and not somebody else's class.
Kristen, I'm sorry, where did you go to for the theme?
Yeah, I was going to go back to that.
Okay.
So you can, in the bottom right corner, or yes, bottom right corner of the banner, this is called the banner, there is a select theme button where you can choose one of the pre-made Google themes. You can also upload a photo. So if you've got an image saved to your computer, you can upload it here. The size requirements are weird because it's such a long and skinny picture. So let's say I'm going to do a Google image search, and I'm going to look up elephants because that's always my favorite. Then what I want to do is make sure that I change the picture, and I can choose a keyword like banner. That'll help me find a picture that's long and skinny. Then when I choose the picture, I can look at the size. This one's 800 by 259. That one may not be big enough. You just want to make sure that it's there. That's 1200 by 500. So if you want to create a custom banner using a Google image, just make sure that it's got a pretty big number here from your Google image search. Oops, I didn't mean to open that. That does look like a lovely website. So you're going to right click on the picture, save the image, then go back to Classroom. And then now I'm going to select that photo from my computer. And so now Google says, well, this is what we think you want your picture to look like. So you can increase the size and move it around so that it fits the best shape. This is what size your banner is going to be. Then I click Select Class Theme. And now I've got an image in the background behind my class information. What's important is you don't pick a background picture that's too crazy, that's got too much going on, because it can be distracting for students. You can also use Google Drawings to create your own banner. I've got a slide about that I'll talk about later, but like a Bitmoji classroom, that's one way to do background banners. And then you can change these at any point. So one suggestion I've heard is to have like drawing contests with your students, and then have them draw banners, and then have a weekly winner and update the banner every week to help get the kids engaged. Give them a reason to practice whatever skill it is you want them to practice, or just as a reward for students. So you can select theme and pick one of Google's themes, or you can upload a photo, and that is how you change the banner in the background. I talked briefly about copying classes. We can come back to that later. But basically, when you copy a class, you will copy the titles, sections, descriptions, course subjects, topics, classwork posts, and your grading system. All of that will copy over to the new class. What will not copy over are announcements, deleted classwork, the students and co-teachers. So like if you've got first period full of students and you copy it to make second period, you don't have to worry that those students will also be enrolled in second period. Any student posts will not copy over, and any attachments that you don't have permission to copy. So copying a class will get you the basic skeleton of your classroom, and it's not going to fill it in with all the other stuff. Okay, so again, Diane, you can click Select Theme, and then pick one of the Google themes, and you can change these as often as you want. And there's lots of themes to pick from. And then click Select Class Theme. Or you can click Upload Photo. Also, both are in the right bottom corner. And then you have to select a photo from your computer. So you do need to download the picture if you do a Google image search. But then once the image is saved from Google, you can click the picture and open it. And then let's say I just want a beautiful sunset. I can pick this portion of the image. So you can move this little slider here to make your image whatever piece of the larger image you want it to be. And then you click Select Class Theme. And now I just have a beautiful jungle picture, because teaching high school is wild.
And then, Kristen, can you show us how to change the text as well?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. So if you realize like you made a mistake and you need to change your class title, you can either go into the settings wheel here, and now I can change it from practice class to practice class period 1. You can change the class description, section, room, and subject. Just click save, and it will automatically change here. You can also do it from, if I go back to the classes button and go to my home screen with all my class tiles, I can click on the 3 dots and then edit the information here also. All right, I'm going to go ahead and talk about a couple of quick tips or best practices for Google Classroom class creation. So we will have more time for questions after this. These are just a few tips that we've learned. Karin and I have both been using Google Classroom for years, and that are also, I found a few articles from Ditch That Textbook to help us come up with some ideas. So a quick tip is to work from a master class. If you teach the same subject, or if you and your colleagues teach the same subject, you can create a master class where you all create it together, or you have all your stuff in the one master class. And then you can use the reuse post button, and I'll get to that, to add it to multiple classes. So basically, if you have a master class where all of your stuff goes, you can perfect it there before you push it out to your classrooms that you use with your students. That's just one way to organize it. I usually used my first period as my master class, and then pushed that out to second, third, fourth, and fifth period, just so that I didn't have to have a separate class. You can use the divide and conquer method with a colleague. If you are a secondary teacher and you teach the same subject as other teachers, why not have a master class that you're all a part of, and then you can all add information to it. Or if you're an elementary teacher, you can share a master class with your colleagues, and let's say you do all of the language arts assignments and your coworker who also teaches the same grade level as you does all the math assignments, and then you can just use all those together. So instead of doing all the work by yourself, when you have a class that you share with another teacher, you can use each other's materials, your assignments. That way you are not working harder, you're working smarter. So think about how you've organized your syllabus for the year, and if you've got any coworkers that you can split the load with. Oh, this is a good one. We're going to go back and do this in a second. Turning off stream notifications. So how Google Classroom is set up currently, whatever you have that you create as an assignment will show up in the stream. The stream is this first button here. This is like the home page for the Google Classroom. If you don't turn off notifications, every single assignment and material that you create will show up in the stream, and then the stream gets full. The suggestion is to use the Google Classroom stream as like a hallway or cafeteria. So announcements, overviews, quick questions, and then train your students to actually go to the classwork button to find their assignments. When I had stream notifications not turned off previously, because I didn't know it existed, all my students would just go here and then scroll through everything till they found the assignments, and they would never actually go to the classwork button to see how well organized and understandable it is here. So to turn off stream announcements, you're going to go to your classroom, click on the settings wheel, scroll down until you get to classwork on the stream, and then you're going to click hide notifications. This is a pretty strong suggestion that all teachers do this because it will make everything more organized and easier for you to see. It's like when your students have folders and they just shove everything in the front pocket and nothing is organized. That's what it's like when you have all of your notifications on the stream. It's that front pocket of the notebook. But if you hide notifications, then they're forced to use the rest of their 3-ring binder and actually have it organized.
Yes.
Okay. One other thing you can do while we're here, and you will get to know your students very well, is whether or not you want students to comment on the stream. So how I have my class set up now is that I only allow students to comment. They can't post. I taught secondary. I had stinkers who would post silly jokes and sometimes things that were a little worse than silly. And so you can mute individual students. You can also only allow students to comment and not create their own posts. Or if you've got some real stinkers, you can just turn off their ability to make class-wide stream announcements. Basically, the stream announcements go out to the whole class. So if you've got kiddos who can't be trusted and are saying inappropriate things, turn this off. Once you've made your changes here, go ahead and click the Save button in the top right corner.
Kristen, can you show us again really quick how to hide notification in the stream?
Yes. So you're going to go to the top right corner of your classroom, the settings wheel. Scroll down until you see the words classwork on the stream. And then you're going to click Hide Notifications. And then after you click Hide Notifications, you're going to click the Save button in the top right corner. In my little practice classroom here, I have almost no announcements because I've turned off stream notifications. And you can see it's just a home page. And then you go to classwork, and here are all the assignments for students. When you don't turn off stream notifications, it can look like this. Oh no, not this one. This one's well organized. Where is it? This one. And so on this one, it's just post after post after post after post. And this just becomes overwhelming for students because it just keeps going forever and there's no end. So that's why turning off stream notifications can be very helpful. So custom banners, there's a couple of different ways you can create custom banners here. Here's a really cute one with a shark doing the Macarena. I think he's doing the Macarena. You can actually look for GIFs on a Google image search and then find a GIF to add to your classroom banner. The suggestions here are to go to settings, do an advanced setting, choose size large, and aspect ratio panoramic. So let's say I'm going to do an image search. I'll try elephants again. This time I'm going to go to, is it under tools? Yes, tools. Size is large. Type is GIF. And these may or may not load. You can see they all have GIF at the bottom. So it takes a little more work, but you can see how cute this little sharky guy is. Kids love this kind of stuff. So if you just want to make your kids smile, you can do something like this. Some other ideas for custom banners is to create your own class norms or anchor chart. So if you've got your class rules, you can create that here. Here's an example of a classroom banner with class norms. Or you can create your own Bitmoji virtual classroom. So this one I created for practice, and it's got me with a stack of books, because that's how many books I assigned as an English teacher. So there's some fun ways that you can make it more engaging for students using custom banners. Some more quick tips for naming classes. If you are using the Synergy Sync, it will automatically name it for you. However, you can go into the class settings and change the name after Synergy names it whatever your section is, and it won't affect your Synergy Sync. So it's okay to rename your classes. Naming conventions for classes. It's a good idea to have a discussion as a department, a grade level, or even as a whole school to have similar names for all of your classes so that it's easy for students. Especially at the secondary level, if everybody's doing their own thing, it can be really hard for students to go through all 7 of their class periods and figure out who's which class. So my example here, it would be easier for students to see first Algebra 1 Garlits. That's all going to show up in the bar, and it's going to be easier for them to read than Mrs. Garlit's first period Algebra 1 class. You see how many more words that is? So think about having a discussion at your school about naming conventions for classes to make it easier for students. If it's elementary and they only have your class and maybe an elective or two, it's less of a concern. However, when I go to my classes page, you can see that little dot, dot, dot. If your class name is too long, it will get cut off. So if you only have one word that manages to fit, make sure it's a good word. And then the last tip, and this took me forever to learn, you can actually rearrange the tiles here. So whatever class you use first or most, just click and drag, and you can change the order of your classes. This is great if you're like me and you've got a million classes that you are enrolled in as a student, and you also help co-teach. If your administrator is in all of the classes for the entire school, this can be really helpful. If you create them out of order and you're like, oh, first period's at the end and that bugs me, move first period first. So enrollment, you will add your students. You won't be able to until you get them in Synergy. And I don't know if you guys have access to your class loads yet. So you can come back to this slide and think about it after you get your student populated in Synergy. So the easiest way to enroll students is to share the class code with them. Students will go to classroom.google.com. They will click on the plus button and they will click join and type in your class code. Your class code is always available right here underneath the title. And you can make it nice and large and then project it on your screen like this. If I taught multiple periods with different class codes, I would just write them on the board and have first period class code, second period class code. So that way I didn't have to worry about it. If you have a weird class code like this, like sometimes students have a hard time with, is that a 0 or an O? Is it a 1 or an uppercase I? You can actually change your class code by going to the settings wheel. And then, oh yeah, here it is. Under manage invite codes, you can reset it and change the code. The other thing I had math teachers often do is they would assign the quiz in a special quiz classroom and then change the code in between each classes so the kids couldn't go back in and give the math quiz to their friends. So there's actually a bunch of different ways to use Classroom. So, but that class code, that's the easiest way for you to get your students to join, because you just wait till the first day of school, project that code on the board, and have them join Google Classroom. If you have students that are absent, or if you've got younger students where that's a lot of work, you can go to the People tab and you can add students by their email address. So if you've got a list of email addresses from Synergy, you can just copy and paste it all in there. And then the students will receive an email asking them to join. So they still have to do something. It won't automatically enroll them. They'll still have to go to their email. And how that looks is you go to the People tab, click on the plus button down here under Students, and then type in the student name or their email address. If you've got multiple students with the same name, just make sure you're choosing the right one. Some names are more popular than others. My husband teaches at a large high school. He's had 2 kids with the same name in the same class period.
Kristen, I understand, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead. If we do already have our class list in Synergy, will Synergy automatically populate our Google Classroom for us or no?
Karin, you want to answer that one?
Sure. So if you are in Google Classroom, if you're going to set it up to auto-populate, then what you have to do is go into your Synergy gradebook and input the class code in the gradebook settings set up in Synergy.
I never use the Synergy sync, so I don't generally focus on that. It's completely up to you whether you want to use it or not, but he will give you all the step-by-steps for how to use Synergy to populate your Google Classroom with students, as well as the automatic grading and all that good stuff. So he can put the information in the chat for the Synergy sync sessions that we have available. Okay, The last way to add students to Classroom is to capture this invite link, this class code. You just click the copy button here. And now that link is copied to my clipboard. And now I can go into Synergy and send an email to my students and say, hey, students, this will be your class code. Please click on the link and join Classroom. So whether you type in the student name or send them the link, students will have to check their email in order to join the class. When students type in the class code at the beginning of the class period, this thing here, then they're automatically in. So either way, students are going to have to do something active, but you can support, your special ed ELL students, your younger learners, by going into the People tab and sending them that invite code or adding them here just to make it a little bit easier for them.
When we send that link to them, will they still need our code or?
No, the code's built into the link that gets sent to them.
Okay.
Inviting guardians. This can't happen until your students have accepted. So if you've got your Synergy class link and you've got a whole list of students down here under students and it says invited, you won't be able to add a guardian yet, but guardians can come later. Why it's important to invite your guardians, your students' parents and families, is that parents and guardians will receive weekly emails that include all your students' missing work, upcoming work that's due either today and tomorrow if they choose daily emails, or the upcoming week if they choose weekly emails, and then class activity, which includes announcements, assignments, and questions. So those guardian summary emails can be really helpful for keeping the parents in the loop as to what's happening in class. If you teach secondary, the parents receive one email with a summary of all of the classes that their student is enrolled in. So they won't receive 7 different emails every day. They'll just get one email. That's really helpful for those parents who are, active in their kids' lives, helping their students out. It's a good CYA to make sure that they know what's going on in class. What will happen is that they will get an email after you invite them, and they have to accept it. So it might be helpful before you send the email from Google to send them a quick Synergy email saying, hey, I'm going to invite you to Google Classroom. Make sure you accept it, because otherwise this can look kind of spam-like, and some parents might say, I'm not the guardian, I don't need more junk mail, but it's not junk mail. So just let your parents know that you're going to do this so that they accept the invite and then get the weekly emails. So all you do after you've got your students enrolled and they've accepted the invite is you click on the 3 little dots next to the student's name, and then you invite guardian. And then you type in their email addresses, and you should be able to get those email addresses from Synergy. And you can have multiple guardians for each student. So if mom and dad need to get the emails, you can do that. Then they will receive an email and they will have to accept the invitation. So if a parent has never accepted the invitation, it will say invited. I use my kids in my fake class. And so I never accepted the invitation to one of them just so you could see what it looks like. The last type of person you can invite to your classroom is a co-teacher. If you are sharing the work between a department or grade level, this is a great idea to invite co-teachers. If you've got a student teacher, you can invite them as long as they get their APS email address. Or an administrator. Some admin like to use this as a quick way to check up and see what everybody's working on. So to add a co-teacher, you go up here under the People tab to the Teacher section and click the little plus button, and then type in the name of your co-teacher that you're going to invite. And I'm going to type in our new resource teacher and invite her. So you can see now I've invited her. And it's grayed out because she hasn't accepted the invitation yet. So adding a co-teacher can be really helpful. The other nice thing about this is that if a teacher leaves in the middle of a school year, which does happen, if somebody is in the classroom as a co-teacher, you can actually make them the owner of the class. Then the original teacher can leave without losing the Google Classroom and all the materials. So let's say I wanted to make Tina the owner of this class and give her full ownership. I just click the 3 dots next to her name and then click make class owner. And then she would have the ability to delete the class or save the class and be the teacher if I were to leave. This has come up a few times with teachers that have left in the middle of the school year. All right, some quick tips for inviting students, guardians, and co-teachers. If you work at a large school or you've got, 150 to 170 middle school or high school kids, you don't want to invite all of those guardians. That's going to take you forever. So the suggestion is you sit down as a school and say, okay, everybody pick first period, everybody invite the guardians from first period. And then that way you'll hit all of the students. Once a guardian has been invited by one teacher, the other classes will automatically show up. So instead of, one teacher doing all of the work for all of their students, if you just divide up the whole school and say, everybody do first period, then you can get all of the guardians invited. The guardians also stick from year to year. So as long as your students' guardians keep using the same email address, they will continue to get the emails, the summary emails, year after year. You don't have to re-invite them every year. Then you just have to go through and invite new students at the beginning of the year once your school starts using Google Classroom year after year. Next up is classwork. This is the real meat of your classroom. This is the whole purpose of why we're doing this. The first thing I like to do is set up my topics for my class. Topics are a way to organize your classroom so that the assignments go under headers. There's a bunch of different ways to consider doing topics and organizing them. So think about how you want to organize your school year. What's going to be the best way to do it? You can go back and change them later, but it's nice if you can take a moment to get organized now and really think about it. So to create a topic, you're going to go to your classwork button in Classroom. Then you can click Create and create a topic. Some ways to consider organizing or to have a topic of the week. So I could have August, what's the first day of school? 11th through 13th. And so I'll just have that first week. A fun thing you can do for topics is add emojis. This is fun for students so that it's very visual. It's easy to see. You're just going to right-click in your topic box and then click emoji. And then you can add whatever's going to make sense for that week. You can just pick fun ones. I'm on my Dell, which has different ones than were available on my Mac. It's kind of funny how these work. So, let's do, it's the first week of school. We're going to celebrate with a firework, because why not? Did it select it? Yes. Then when I click add, that topic is going to show up here, and you can see how that's just much more visual. So organizing your classroom by week is great. Organizing your classroom by type of assignment. At the school I worked at previously, we had shorter terms, and so we changed students every quarter. So only having them for that period of time, the classrooms didn't get too full. If you're going to see your students all school year or all semester, consider smaller chunks for your topics, but like maybe materials, assignments, in-class work, homework, quizzes and tests, essays, those could all be categories. If you teach elementary, it could be math, social studies, science, language arts, whatever's going to work for you. So really think about it. Some things you can do to help yourself out once you've created your topics is you can actually click and drag them and move them. So let's say I'm going to create, let's see here. Yeah, that's the next week. And I'm going to add an emoji. Remember to add an emoji. You right click, emoji. Oops. I hate when I click the wrong spot. And then let's do this one, because every week is a gift. There we go. And I go, oh, shoot, now I have the weeks out of order. All you have to do is click and drag and move that topic into the right spot. So it doesn't matter what order you create them in. It's always going to put whichever one you created most recently at the top. You can click and drag them out of the way. Then when the week of August 11th through 13th is done, I can move it down to the bottom and move the current week up here. So you can actually take some time to organize all of your topics. Students won't see the topics until you have some assignments posted under them. So this is just for you to get organized. And then even once it's full of assignments, you can move a topic also. So my materials one, maybe those are my notes, and so I always want students to see those first. I can move that to the very top. Come on, there we go. You can also move assignments within topics, and I'll get to that in a moment. But it's just nice to have your topics set up, ready to go for when school starts. All right, so creating classwork. If you know what you're doing for the first week of school, congratulations, you're way ahead of a lot of people. I never knew what I was doing till the day before. But you can actually start creating classwork now if you're ready. The different types of classwork you can create are an assignment, a Kami assignment, which uses Kami, the PDF annotator. I am going to tell you that unless you or your school pays for Kami, it will not work. You do have to have the Kami Pro version. District is not paying for that, so talk to your school if you use Kami PDF annotator and you're interested in that. A quiz assignment, which works with Google Forms. A question, which is just an individual question. A material, which is something that students won't, it's not an assignment, it's just like notes or posters, something that they need to see. And then you can reuse posts. And this one's really helpful for if you've used Classroom previously and you want to use the same assignments for the next time. If you are going to do the Google Synergy Sync, the only types of assignments you can use are assignment and quiz assignment. It will not allow you to use question assignments. That doesn't work with the Synergy Sync. So to create an assignment, you're going to click on the plus create button, click on the assignment button, give your assignment a title, give it instructions. This is a new update. You can actually bold, italicize, underline, or bullet point your instructions. It didn't used to have those options, so that's nice to actually be able to edit this. Whatever. Just write as many. My suggestion is to write good, thorough instructions so that students have all the information they need. If you are going to do the Synergy Sync, you can add a doc with the instructions. There are text limits for the Synergy Sync instructions. And Karn will cover more of that in the Synergy Sync session. But you can then bullet point your instructions. You know, add as many as you need to make it make sense for students. When I taught high school, I was also the ESL coordinator, and I would have my ESL students work on their homework with me during study hall. And frequently they would pull up an assignment from another teacher and I'd say, okay, what are you supposed to do? They're like, I don't know. And then I check Classroom and I'm like, oh shoot, I don't know either. So really the more instructions, the more specific instructions you can give students here, the easier it's going to be for them to, complete outside of class, know what to do. And then the fewer emails you'll get asking what to do. So this is great to add instructions for students who are going to be absent, for assignments they need to finish up at home, for homework assignments. So really think about what you can add here. And if not here, add it on a doc as an attachment. You can attach, I'm not sure what the limits are. You can attach a lot of things. You can add a document, slide deck, PDF, anything you have saved to your Google Drive. You can add a link to a website. You can add a file that is saved to your computer, and you can even embed a YouTube video. This is really nice if you've got instructional videos you found on YouTube and you want to embed them in here. so that they don't have to go to YouTube. So I'm going to add, let's say, I need them to do viewboard orientation because they need to learn how to use smartboards just like we do. Oh, I don't have the ownership of this. You see that little triangle shape? That means you can't add it. So you can only add things from your drive that you are the owner of. Okay. When you've added something from your Google Drive, students can either view the file, which means they have no editing access, they can only read it. Students can edit the file, which means that all students share editing access on the same document. Or you can make a copy for each student, which means that like a worksheet and the copy machine, you've now made a copy for everybody and they each get their own. So if you've got something you want to attach that is a worksheet that they're going to fill out, make sure you make a copy for each student. This is also important because once I've assigned this, I can't go back and make a copy for each student later. I have to delete the assignment and start over. And I cannot tell you how many times I forgot to change the permissions here from students can view file. And my students would say, Miss, we can't edit it. And then you have to go back and delete the assignment and start over. So just really double check to make sure. If you want them to have a copy, you make a copy for each student. You can, if you're going to add a link, it'll just tell you, like, add your link, and then you would copy and paste it from whatever website. The video search is nice for YouTube because you can actually search by topic. Or if you know the specific link to the video, you can link it that way. So whatever, I taught English, let's say parts of speech, and I need them to review that video before they complete the assignment. You just click add, and then it shows up here. On the right side here, your choices are which class to assign it for. This is super helpful. This took me years to discover. You can actually click this button here under 4 and assign your assignment to multiple classes. So if you teach the same thing multiple class periods, pick all the class periods and assign it once instead of going into each class and assigning it again and again and again. You can also differentiate for your students by clicking the All Students button here and then assign it to just some of them. So if you've got smaller groups, like if you do small group instruction within your classroom, like different reading levels, you can assign different assignments to groups of students, and only the students you assign it to will see it in their classroom. The other students won't see it. So this is a great way to differentiate for students within the same class period. You can choose points, change the number to whatever you want, or leave it ungraded. Choose a due date. This is important. If you don't choose a due date, it won't show up on the student's calendar, and we're going to talk about how to view calendars in a minute. So you can always go back and change the due date if you need to extend it further, but it's really important to choose a due date so it shows up on their calendars. You can even choose a time if you want to, like this is due at the end of first period. And so that's or second period, whatever. And then it will mark it as late. Oh, I will just change that. There we go. It will mark it as late if they turn it in past the end of the class period. Here you can choose your topic. So I created this for next week, so we'll put it in the first week's topic. You can add a rubric. These rubrics are great for longer assignments, for bigger assignments. If it's just a worksheet you're going to give like a 1 out of 100 score to, you don't need to do a rubric. But they're actually pretty easy to create. You can create a rubric or reuse one or import it from Sheets. We'll come back to that because that's a little more advanced. And then check for plagiarism. So what you can do, teachers have an unlimited number of check for plagiarisms they're allowed to use on our Google accounts. This is great for English teachers, anybody who's doing research papers. Anytime you have students that are turning in something written, it can check to see if sources are cited and how much comes from a source that can be found on the internet. It can even check student work versus student work. So it can catch if like student A copies from student B. So you can check for plagiarism at any point if you want. If it's like something like a math assignment with numbers they're typing in, that probably won't be useful. But anything that's written, it's a good idea to turn on that check for plagiarism. Then your choices when you're ready to assign it are to either assign it, which pushes it out right now. Students can view it right away. You can schedule it. This is nice for if you are sitting down, you know, Sunday night, planning out what's going to happen Monday morning. You can schedule it for the next day. Or if you're not ready to schedule it, you can save it as draft. When you save it as draft, it shows up. Let me move this back up to the top. It shows up grayed out because it's not live. It's not active. If it shows up as whatever your color is for your classroom, mine's pink for this classroom. If it shows up colored, it's live and students can view it. Once it's in draft mode here, it'll also say in small letters on the right side, draft. All you have to do is click the 3 little dots, edit it, and then you can go back and assign it or schedule it, or continue to save it as draft. So if you've got larger assignments that you just need to keep going back to and adding to the instructions, or if you want to save everything as draft and have it ready to go and then click schedule first thing Monday morning, you can do that too. If you do teach secondary, I will warn you that high school kids will go in and view their classrooms and then turn in all their assignments before class even starts. There's always those kids. So I try not to assign stuff at the beginning of the day. I tried to schedule it so that second period stuff would show up at the beginning of second period. It's a little more work for you, but it helps keep everybody on the same pace. When you schedule it, it gives you a choice for date. So let's say I just want it to show up later today. I'm going to have it show up at 11 a.m. Okay, there we go. Then I click schedule. And now it tells me here it's scheduled for 11 a.m. If you go, oh shoot, I scheduled it for p.m. instead of a.m., because that's a mistake I made a bunch too, you can always go back in and edit it and change the schedule. You can also go back in and edit the instructions, the title, the attachments. You can edit everything. Even once it's a live assignment, like ready to go, like this assignment I have here called Persuasive Essay Final Draft, you can always go back and edit. So for me as a secondary English teacher, most of the assignments I created were regular assignments. If you do a lot of quiz assignments, this quiz assignment button can be really helpful too. A quiz assignment will automatically create a Google form for you. Otherwise, it looks very similar to an assignment. You have your title, your instructions, who you're assigning it to, points, due date, topic, all that stuff. What you can do, here we've got grade importing turned on, which means whatever grade students get on the Google Forms quiz will automatically pop over to Classroom. And if you've got Synergy Sync happening, it'll then automatically pop over to Synergy also. So if you're going to do a quiz assignment, make sure that the grade importing button is turned on. You can also do locked mode on Chromebooks. This button is really nice because when students open this form to take this quiz, they can't open any other tabs. That's going to help reduce cheating. It's also going to help reduce distractions from kids who would rather do something else than take a quiz. You can go in then, and I've got my blank quiz here. If you need to do a Google Forms training, we would be more than happy to provide a Forms training for you. That's a whole nother hour-and-a-half long training right there. And if you used Google Forms before, it's great. So these are great. You can use Forms for quick assessments, formative, final exams. We use them for final exams for my previous school. And we'll add it under August. All right. I'm going to assign it so you can see what it looks like from a student's perspective. I didn't add anything to the quiz, so we'll see what happens there. Question is a really great one for a quick, like a bell ringer activity or a quick exit ticket. I really like questions. Again, if you're doing the Synergy Sync, you can't use it, but for the rest of us, this is super awesome. All you do is ask a simple question. It can be something about like last night's homework, so a good bell ringer activity. It can be a single math problem. It can be a single review question. Anything you want that's going to be short. I did a lot of race paragraphs. We'll just pretend that my students read a story. You can do a short answer or a multiple choice question. So if you did like a math question, like what's the answer to this problem, and then give them some choices, it's great for test prep practice. It's great for reviewing. You can give them additional instructions. If you don't know race, it's restate, answer, cite, explain. I think social studies use something else, example, evidence, something like that. You can add an attachment or create here just like an assignment. You can set a due date, points, who's it for, all that good stuff. Down here at the bottom, do you want students to be able to reply to each other? Do you want students to be able to edit their answers? I like to turn that on because there's always that kid who clicks submit before they're ready, and then they're like, Miss, I didn't finish. So make sure they can edit their own answers. And then do you want them to reply to each other? You can use this question as like a discussion board. For secondary, this is great because in college, they love discussion boards and their college professors will definitely do this. So it's good prep for that. It's also great to post a question that they can answer for each other. So then you're giving them a place to have a digital conversation to support each other's learning. Then just like an assignment, you can ask the question, schedule it, or save it as a draft. And so now visually I can see that the assignments have this little clipboard looking picture with lines on it, and the question assignment has a little question mark on it. How these look different from the student's perspective, I'm going to go to my daughter's account, and then I'm going to go to classwork. So you can see that get to know me activity is grayed out because I have it scheduled, which means when I'm logged in as a student, it doesn't show up here. The only things that show up are the ones that have been actively assigned. So the reading quiz, I can see it says take the quiz, and then it's got the blank quiz here. I'm not going to go ahead and open it because I don't want to lock this computer for some reason. Also, it's blank, there's no questions. But you can see how easy it is for the students to just click on the attachment and start the quiz. For the question, they click view question, and then they type in their answer right here. So from a student's perspective, it's super easy to answer a question. It's just ready to go. Then they click turn in when they're ready. And if the student goes, oh, shoot, I forgot, they can edit their answer. This would be a terrible race paragraph, by the way. All right. Then on the question, students can also see the other classmates' answers. There are none because nobody else has answered it, but they would all show up here, and then they could comment on each other because I had that button turned on. So that's really nice for have that communication, that feedback with your students. As a student, I can also see an assignment with attachments. I can see all of here's one with a rubric. So when you use a rubric, students can see that rubric. Students can add their own attachment. They can create a new doc, slide, sheets, or drawings. They can add something from their Google Drive. If it is something with let's see here. So here is an assignment called Persuasive Essay Final Draft. This one I had the originality reports turned on. So the students can then check their work here. So this one also has a rubric attached. What the student would then do is they would click add. they would go to their Google Drive where their document is saved, hopefully. They would insert their essay or attachment of whatever it is. And then since the originality reports is turned on, look how easy it is for them. They just click this run button and then run, and it's running the report. It tells you how far it's gone right here. There we go. And then they can view their own originality report. So how cool is this, that this will help them? It's got no flagged passages. Oh, good. This was a real essay I stole from a student. So that means that she had no issues. If there were issues, they would show up right here. So this is super helpful to make sure that students are citing sources correctly and not plagiarizing. Or what I noticed a lot as a high school teacher is they would just copy and paste from Wikipedia and not bother to change anything. So no excuses for not knowing that it was acceptable, because this is going to tell them if it's acceptable or not. Then the student clicks turn in when they're ready. Turn in. They can unsubmit it if they need to. As a teacher, I can go back now to their assignment here, and I can see that one of my students has turned it in. So look at how nice and easy that is. The only other type of creation under classwork is material. And a material is something that you want students to have access to. You notice that there is nothing over here for grading because it's a non-graded thing. This would be for like giving students notes that you want them to have access to, or posting instructional videos that you want them to have access to. So when you create materials, that's really the only difference. Students will read it or watch it, but not turn anything in. It's not an assignment.
I'm just curious, and I'm so sorry, this is probably a stupid question. When we create assignments or quizzes, should we only be using Google Forms?
That's a good question. So if you're doing the Synergy Sync, you definitely want to use that quiz question with the form attached. You can use other tools to create quizzes. You can link those here. You can even grade them on Google Classroom. So there are lots of quiz style websites. Feel free to use those.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, that was a great question. So some best practices tips, and I talked about this, be careful with your assignment types if you're using Synergy Sync, and don't use emojis in assignment names if using Synergy Sync. So for Synergy Sync, it's okay to use emojis up here in the topic, but not here in the question. An example of what this could look like if you're not doing Synergy Sync. Tina set up our mentor teacher classroom for the mentor teacher program. And look at how beautiful this is. So all of the August assignments are under the August topic, and they all have the pencil emoji. So it's all beautifully organized. For September, they all match. October, they all match. And you can see all of these are scheduled to go live in September, scheduled to go live in October. So this is what an organized classroom that is like prepared for the rest of the year can look like. I was able to do a couple of days ahead, never months ahead. We've got some Synergy Sync documentation here, but again, please go to Karn's session if you're interested in the Synergy Sync. Click and drag to rearrange topics or classwork. Reuse posts. Okay, so once you've used Classroom for a year and you've got a bunch of assignments you've done, it's even easier the following year to use Classroom. Let me go back to my practice classroom. When I'm on this classwork button and I go to create, I can reuse a post, and it's going to pull up all of the classrooms that I've ever been a teacher in. This is from this class. Okay. So any class that you've been a teacher in will show up here, including your archived classes. So it goes in order of the last time you used it. So I'm going to use, let's say this one. And then I'm going to use this one. I'm going to post this material. So now that it's gray and I've clicked on it, I can reuse it. It's going to take a moment to load. But this is great. This way, after getting used to Classroom and being good at it this year, it's going to be even easier to use next year because you can actually reuse those assignments. You can then edit anything from last year or last time you used it, including changing the topic or creating a new topic, title, description, all of that. And then just like with any other assignment, you can, this was a material, so it's posting. You can post it, schedule it, or save it as a draft. So that reuse button can be super helpful. That's also good if you share a master class with other teachers, and then you can reuse each other's posts from that master class. Scheduling assignments ahead of time can help you stay organized. Assigning it to multiple classrooms can help you stay organized. The only issue with scheduling is that you can't schedule for multiple classes at once. So I would sit down Sunday night and I would schedule out Monday morning, and I would have to go into first period and schedule it, then go into second period and schedule it, and go into third period and schedule it, which was fine because then I could schedule it to pop up at the very beginning of first period, the very beginning of second period, the very beginning of third period. When you assign it to multiple classes, it will automatically post all at the same time. So just be aware that those are the different options you have. Let students help each other by posting a question. This would be great. This question here was, have questions about this project, post them here. Know the answer to someone else's question, answer it. So you can use it as that, that question parking lot to help them answer each other's, help each other. And then it's less work for you because they can help answer each other's questions. Just a quick tip for Google Forms. If you are using Google Forms for quizzes, make sure you mark questions as required. Otherwise, students will skip them and turn it in, and then it screws up their grades. The nice thing about Google Forms versus Scantrons, because I remember assigning Scantrons, is kids would skip a bubble, and then every question after that would be wrong. That doesn't exist in Google Forms, so that's a pro for Google Forms. And then the last tip is more of a suggestion. With technology, you can give students the freedom to choose how they want to represent their understanding. So since students can attach whatever they want, you can allow them to choose how to show their knowledge. Maybe they want to create a graphic organizer. Maybe they want to write a short story to show their understanding of this historical concept. Maybe you want to turn science into a comic strip. Like, you can really have diversity and post a question or a topic or a standard and have students then submit different types of assignments. Maybe one kid wants to write an essay while the other one wants to film a video. So really think about giving your students that freedom, not all the time, not every assignment, but every once in a while to have some student choice in how they show their learning.
Okay, thanks.
All right. One of the best things about Classroom is that you can grade and return student work. It's pretty quick and easy. Obviously, if you've got a stack of worksheets and you just write 10, 10, 10 and flip through the physical worksheets, that's going to be faster. But it's great because there's feedback involved. So to grade student work, you can, there's a couple of ways to do it, but there's some ways that are quicker. I'm going to go to the classwork tab. You can actually go to the grades tab and grade stuff there. But for me, I like to go assignment at a time. So I'm going to go to the classwork tab. I'm going to go down to this essay that I know my student turned in. And I would pretend I've had 30 kids in this class and, 25 out of the 30 have submitted it. I'm going to click here where it says 1 turned in. I can see her attachment here. If I go to the assigned button, I can see that there's no attachment. She hasn't even started it. And now I'm going to click on her attachment, and it's going to open up a new window where I can grade her assignment. The nice thing is, because the student ran the originality report, it already has the report for me up here. I can now read through the assignment. I can give it a grade right here. It's also given a grade because I graded it on the rubric. I can add private comments. This is nice where I can say overall assignment feedback. You can post those private comments. You do have to hit post before you move on to the next assignment. You can also give feedback by doing private comments on the actual assignment. As an English teacher, this was great because oftentimes I would have to comment things like missing citations. This was a well-written essay, so it wasn't missing a citation. But let's just pretend. You highlight the text in whatever their assignment is. Then this little comment button is going to pop up. I can then write a comment and then hit comment. And now this sentence is going to be highlighted yellow and tagged with my comment, so my student knows exactly what they need to do. Students will then see your comments and they will see the highlights. I can also make sure that I am in suggesting mode, and then I can change things for students. So let's say the rule is they should write out numbers. You see how it is in green here, and it says replace 40 with 40, the word. Spelled that wrong, didn't I? That's embarrassing. No, I don't know. I picked a bad word. I'm having an off day. Don't judge me. It's green because it's in suggestion mode. So this is great if you're going to edit kids' papers for them. This is great then for resubmissions, turning in work multiple times, because we know that writing is recursive. It's never perfect the first time. So that suggestion mode is great if you're going to suggest changes for them. And then comments, again, super easy. You just click on something, click the comment button, and then add your comment. A nice thing you can do with comments that a lot of teachers don't know about is that there is a comment bank, where if you have commonly used things you say over and over again, you don't have to type it out every time. On the right-hand side here, I'm going to click on this little comment icon. And here I can see what I have saved to my comment bank already. I can then add to bank. And let's see here. What is another one I commonly say? I've already got the ones that I usually said as an English teacher. Make sure you check for commas. Kids always forget their commas. Then I add it to the comment bank. So you can add as many comments here as you need to, whatever you're commonly saying to your students. Then when I go to my comment, how you search for a comment is with the hashtag. So I'm going to do hashtag, and then it's going to pull up my most recently used ones. But I can also search by letter or keyword. And then all I have to do is click the comment from the list and click comment. So this comment bank can save you a lot of time if you end up saying the same thing over and over again to every single student, while still giving them that individual feedback. It looks like you've spent a lot of time giving them feedback when really you're just saying the same thing that you say to everybody else, because students always have those same issues. So that comment bank is really helpful. With the rubrics, I can show you how to do a rubric in a minute. It's really nice because once it's here, you can just click the boxes to change their grades, and the grade will automatically update for you. You can return each assignment one at a time, but what I prefer to do is to use the arrows up here to go through all of the submissions at once. This is going to save you a little bit of time. I only have the 2 students. You would see a whole list of students. What I would do is organize by status. And so it puts all of the assignments that have been turned in at the top and all the assignments or all the kids that are missing at the bottom. Then you can just grade all the ones that have been turned in all together at the same time. And then I'm just going to give her a 0. So then what I do is I go back to classroom. It automatically shows me my grades here. And then I can click turned in and assigned if I wanted to, and return everybody's work all at once. You do want to return work to students. so that they can see what their grade is. It also transfers ownership back to the students. When students submit work, Google gives the teacher ownership so that they have editing access, and students lose their editing access. When you return it to them, they gain their editing access back. So if you do want them to edit an essay and resubmit it, they need to have it returned by you. I hope that makes sense. As a student then, I can go and see that my work is now graded. I can see the private comment my teacher gave me as a student. And I can see up at the top here, my overall grade as well as my rubric score. So from a student standpoint, you've gotten a lot of information from your teacher here. And as a teacher, it wasn't too much effort to give them all this feedback. So this is a lot more helpful from a feedback standpoint than, you know, a 10 out of 10 written on the top of their paper, which is what I did for years. For quiz assignments, you can you'll get the grades automatically if you set it up as a quiz on your Google form. And please reach out to us if you need any help with Google Forms and setting up those quizzes. The other way to look at grades for something is to go to the grades button. And then you can see all of your students, all of their assignments all at once. So let's say, for example, this get to know me. Maybe that was an in classroom on paper assignment, and I've got those worksheets sitting in front of me. What I can do is take the grades from their paper and type them in right here. And so now I can grade all the kids all at once from here. Maybe I've got all my late work. I can put those in here of stuff that kids have turned in. The nice thing about Google Classroom is it doesn't have to be 100% on Google Classroom. You can do a hybrid of paper assignments, posters, presentations, and stuff that they do digitally and turn in on Classroom. You can grade it all on Classroom. And if you do Synergy Sync, it automatically loads to Synergy. The only problem is this is in draft mode. You either have to return it here. That's annoying. Return all here. That's much easier. I'm just going to return them all here. You can also go back to the classwork button and go to the assignment and return them there. So those are the different ways to use grades, either by going to classwork, going to the assignment and grading it there, which is great if you want to do an assignment at a time, or by going here and typing in the numbers. This is great for if you've got on paper assignments in front of you, or you want to check for missing assignments that have been turned in late. Because if you go back in time and go, oh man, little Joey turned in something from last month, now I can go back in and return it to them. And then just check to make sure that they're all returned to students so that they can keep track of their own work to see what they've turned in and what grades they got, and if they want to resubmit it. All right, real quick about rubrics, because I do want to give you some time and we've got one more topic to cover. Rubrics are great. They do take a little work to set them up the first time, but once you've got it set up, it's super easy to reuse them again and again. So if you've got rubrics you use all the time, like as an English teacher, we had one for persuasive writing, one for short stories, one for research, and we use the same rubric for different assignments because it's not about the length of assignment. You click on the rubric button inside the assignment, you click Create Rubric. Make sure use scoring is turned on if you want it to actually give them a score. I'm going to give this one the title of completion. And then I'm going to decide how many points I want for each section. So do I want this to be on a 5-point scale? And this, see, you can see this takes a little bit of time. You do need to have points. You can give titles to each of these. There we go. And then even descriptions. So like if you have a paper rubric that you've been using or something you've created on one of those rubric generator websites, you can also just copy and paste this over. Then you can add another criterion, and you can just keep going until your rubric is done. So the hardest part is just typing it all in.
There you go.
So you just create the rubric here, give everything the number of points that you want. You can do, 100, 90, 80, whatever's going to make sense. And then it automatically tells you how many points it's going to be worth once it's done. So right now my rubric is out of 10 points because I only have 2 criteria. So you can add as many criteria as you need to. Then you click save. And now I've got this rubric created and it's ready to go. Then I just save my assignment. And now students will be able to see the rubric also when they click on the assignment. So as a student, I can see here that I've been graded on this rubric. And visually, it's very easy for students to see what the expectations are. On this rubric, I also included text explaining each level, so students have more feedback. So if you've got rubrics you use already, this is great. And then you don't have to worry about printing a bunch of rubrics and stapling it to their assignments, because that's what I did for years. You can also import. There is actually linked here on the presentation a Google Sheets rubric format that's ready to go. So all you would do is go onto the Google Sheets, fill it out, and then on your classwork button, you would then, oh, it does have a rubric. Let me pick one that doesn't have one. Here we go. Where it says plus rubric, you're going to import from Sheets and then search for your spreadsheet where you have the rubric already set up. Some tips about rubrics. You can make rubrics in sections to grade faster. So if you've got a larger project with multiple parts, if you make smaller rubrics for each part, then you can grade it piece by piece. So for example, I would have my students turn in a introductory paragraph first, and then I could grade the intro on a rubric first, and then the body on a new rubric. So that may work for you. It may work for you just to create one rubric for the final project at the end. Another good tip for grading is to turn off show overall grade to students. Students can get confused when they're All right, some usability features that can help improve your use. And I know this has been a long training and I really appreciate you guys sticking with me. So I'll try to get through these, but there are some things that can improve your Notifications. If you use Google Classroom in the past, you may be getting too many emails. Every single time a kid turns something in or comments. Few more quick tips and then we are done. If you don't know your keyboard shortcuts, it's a great way to save yourself some time. Some common keyboard shortcuts are Control-C for copy or Command-C if you're on a Mac, Control-X for cut, Control-V for paste, Control-Z for undo, and Control-K to add a hyperlink. So those are really good ones to practice because those can save you a lot of time. For all of those, use Command on a Mac instead of Control. Some quick tips about sending announcements. You can email everyone all at once from the People tab. To do that, you go to your classroom, you go to the People tab. You're going to highlight which students you want to email by clicking the button here. And then, if you want to email